Sondela Brownie, sondela. Nangumkhwanazi, ucela uthethe indaba yonke. Sondela Brownie, sondela. Chazi HOSH TIME, sifuna ukwazi indaba yonke. Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. So this episode is different because we're just doing a preview, a quick 1-2 about things that we need to be looking out for, things that we need to be thinking about as Brown Mogotsi steps onto the stage, the big stage, the stage that he asked for, the stage that he told us is going to be a major stage for him, where he will reveal everything, where he will tell us everything. So there's some questions that I think Brown will have to address, some issues that I think Brown will have to address, but I'm actually curious whether or not we are going to get a fearless Brown Mogotsi or a chastised Brown Mogotsi. And there's a difference, because if he has been spoken to, if he has been taken care of, and if they think that they can somehow circumvent this moment in time, you may find that he will lean heavily on denial, obfuscation, destruction, and try to run down the clock. Very difficult to do this at the commission. And we've seen some shenanigans from him which are dubious, which don't tell us where he's going to go. I mean, that whole, I got attacked, my car was shot, that whole thing, I viewed it to be a hoax. I don't want to lie. At the beginning, I believed him, but later on, I viewed it to be a hoax. So he was either trying to cultivate sympathy, show himself as being the victim of somebody. Now, the question is, which somebody? Because if he says he's the victim of the cartel, that's one thing. But if he says he's the victim of, General Khumalo, General Mkhwanazi, that's another thing. So which Brown are we going to see? Are we going to see tell all Brown? Or are we going to see fearful and chastised Brown? Because we know that the HOSH TIME cartels can talk to you in methods that are quite persuasive. But Brown has been really saying, he's coming through to say everything and to say a lot. I mean, this is some of what he has been saying in all of the media interviews that he was doing while he was on tour. This is some of what Brown was saying.
Mr. Mogotsi, what is the nature of your relationship with Vusikhete Matlala?
It takes us back to the right platform which is coming now. He's a businessman, I'm a businessman, but remember the commission is coming where I'll be able to actually go deeper about my involvement.
How do you respond to allegations that you actually exploited your relationship with Vusikhete Matlala for your own interests, financial interests at that?
I'm not a well-off businessman, but the amount mentioned there is 130,000. Truly, that one I can have. I cannot exploit that amount of money. Cat was assisting not necessarily delegates, comrades who were attending the January 8th. There's a message where I asked him to give somebody in the Eastern Cape 10,000. He didn't give it. Or another one was about 12,000 then. It's not to solicit. It's not to extort that amount of money. If there was a message which says, Cat gave me 5 million and the next thing he was appointed. And why I'm saying Senzo Mkhunu has been targeted, check. Cat was appointed for 360 million rand by the previous former minister, by the previous administration. But with the review of the same tender, Senzo Mkhunu terminated this contract. So how does we and Cat become one thing, whereas he loses 360 million tender?
But you made promises towards Cat Matlala regarding that.
Yeah, that will be outlined during the commission as to how and what was the purpose of those actions.
General Khumalo has mentioned that there's an existing relationship between Cat Matlala and a Northwest businessman, Suleiman Karim. Now, how do you fit into that equation?
No, he'll explain if I fit. I don't fit in that equation.
So you've never engaged with them, had any association with them as a trilogy?
No, never.
Okay, so we heard from General Khumalo. There are quite scathing allegations that have been made against you at the commission. You are saying that you are willing to expand further at the commission. Have you been invited, and are you willing to appear before the commission?
Yes, I'm willing to appear before the commission. You see, the Audi Altram Patram ensures the right of an individual to give a side of the story. But significantly, what I like to raise with you, I thought General Khumalo or General Mkonazi or General Masemon, they will provide the commission with a proof of Section 205, which allows them to have access to cell phones. If not, then how are they going to prove that these things belong to us? How are we going to prove that this message is my message?
Now,
because message can be planted. You can use AI to change certain things and just put things that we don't know.
You're not only questioning the manner in which these WhatsApp messages were released, but you're also questioning the authenticity of the messages.
Obviously, yes. I saw some messages written there. I never typed those messages. Vosmatlala's funding was a usual thing that will happen. That usually happens during your January 8th. Business people will fund tables, transportations. How could the investigation team, why did the investigation team in Gauteng end up giving him those communications, which I'm not denying? There are... You're not denying the communications between you and Vosmatlala? No, I'm not denying. And for what Vosmatlala is arrested for is none of my business. If he's my friend or someone I know, has nothing to do with his arrest. He'll go to court and answer for that. Even when someone meets with the president or myself meeting with Matal, he never told me in advance, well, Baba, be careful. I'm a kingpin, I'm this, I'm that. We are meeting him as a business person. It doesn't necessarily say you are endorsing the person. And I believe the reason he kept the messages is because there was nothing wrong that you were doing. He could have deleted them. And General Mkhwanazi was going to stand there saying nothing about me and Vosmatlala. I know Vosmatlala.
And now it's time for Brown to show us the money. Show us the money. Show us the HOSH Kari, Baba. Show us. You know, because you've been promising a lot. You've said a lot of things, Mr. Brown Mogotsi, and we want to see today if you're going to deliver or if Kwababa is going to take over and prevent you from delivering. Guys, have you subscribed, by the way? If you haven't subscribed, check, because that's HOSH Kari behavior. Let's grow the channel. We're aiming for 130,000 subscribers by the end of this month of November. We're on 126,000, so we got 4,000. Let's push. Let's see what we can do. Check if you're subscribed. It helps also if you like, if you comment. All of those things help YouTube know that you love this content so that they can suggest it to other people who also may not know that this channel exists and will also love the content. So I've been thinking about things that we need to be aware of or sensitive to as we listen to Brown, because people can be sneaky in presentations. They can try to misdirect. They can try to play the game of fallacies, the game of PR, the game of scapegoating. All of those things we have to be sensitive to. So there's some things that I think we need to be looking out for that I'm going to outline that we should just be thinking about. Number one, what is Brown Mogotsi's relationship with Senzo Mchunu? That's an important thing, because this is part of what starts off everything on the 5th of March, where the presentation is made by General Mkhwanazi in Parliament that, you know, this guy is associated with questionable characters such as Brown Mogotsi. Then Mchunu says, I don't know this guy. I don't smoke cigarettes with him. I don't do this. I don't do that. I don't know him like that. I know him like this. I don't know him like that. I don't know him like that. That whole argument, you know. Oh, yeah. You know, that whole thing, you know, when R. Kelly's scandal came out, many people had to clarify how they knew R. Kelly. So they'd say, I know R. Kelly, but I don't know him like that. And when the Diddy scandal came out, same thing had to be done. People had to clarify, I know Diddy, but I don't know him like that. I left early. I just met him over here. I met him over there. So we need to understand, what is the relationship with Mchunu? We also need to understand, what is the relationship with Nkabinde? Right, Cedric Nkabinde, the chief of staff, who, while he was trying to explain the timelines, all of a sudden started thumb-sucking, couldn't explain when exactly he met Matlala, who exactly organized the meeting, but I think that he's confirmed, even in that ad hoc committee, before they kicked him out, that, he got Brown Mogotsi's number from Senzo Mchunu, who said, organize the meeting. We're going to need to get details from Brown Mogotsi around how he met Mchunu, what was the meeting about, how do they intersect? Because you've got a police minister here, former premier, former minister and other departments. How do you, as a businessman from Northwest, get to be so associated with this person that you're exchanging calls, you're exchanging messages? We need to get an understanding of that. Then the second thing that we need to know is, what is the relationship with Vusi Matlala? When did you meet? What were your transactions, interactions, etc.? And I think it's important also that we understand what is his relationship with Fikile Mbalula, the Secretary General of the ANC, because he seems to know a lot about Fikile Mbalula, seems to know a lot about the contestations for 2027, and he seems to have a lot of background information. So these relationships, Mchunu, Matlala, Mbalula, Nkabinde, very important for us to know. Then there's this side thing that I want you to be watching out for throughout the day. How does the media describe this fellow? Do they describe him as a fixer? Or do they describe him as a CR17 campaigner? Because that's how a lot of journalists knew him first, as a CR17 campaigner, meaning he was raising funds for President Ramaphosa when he was campaigning to lead the ANC in the first run where he ran in 2017 at that conference. So now the question then becomes, what is your relationship with Cyril Ramaphosa, if any? He has to clarify. How did you get involved in CR17 funding? Because the reason I'm mentioning this is because Matlala is being accused or has been referred to as somebody who was now backing Senzo Mchunu's presidential campaign for the ANC conference. So we need to know, what is Brown's role in the raising of funds within the ANC to pay for activities, events, etc.? That's the first group of questions I think is important. Another thing I want to point out is that it's going to be important for Brown to give us exculpatory evidence. There are two types of evidence. There's incriminatory evidence, and there's exculpatory evidence. Incriminatory, exculpatory. So incriminatory evidence or incriminating evidence is evidence that implicates you in a particular alleged act, conduct, etc. It suggests and creates a narrative that says this person is guilty. Exculpatory evidence actually says, no, when you consider this particular information, this individual actually is not likely to have done said thing. So, for instance, if you're accused of a murder and they say you killed AKA at a tavern or at a nightclub in Durban, and then you say that's impossible because at the time I, Sej Kabonge, was getting my BBL done in Turkey or Thailand, or I was getting whatever he's getting there in Turkey or Thailand. Then people say, oh, okay, you were in Thailand, here's your flight. Well, that's called an alibi, right? So I could not have done the thing because I wasn't physically there. Then we say, okay, you didn't kill this rapper. And then we would know, right? So we're going to have to see from Brown, is he actually going to bring information, evidence, exculpatory facts, or is he going to try to hide behind technical points such as, can I see the Section 205 declaration? I don't think that information is missing. I think that they would have asked for that information and they likely have it already. So other things that he has to respond to: how did he get privileged police information and what is his role within the South African Police Service? Because is he an informant? Is he somebody who works in crime intelligence? Is he somebody who works in national intelligence? We need to know, because he was suggesting that he was involved in the recovery of Thabo Bester. So if that's true, we need an understanding as to what role has he been playing. The other thing he needs to explain is, how did he come across privileged police information and get police contacts? Because remember, the biggest mistake that he made, the one that put him on the radar in a big way, is that he tried to reach out to the no-nonsense man of the year, General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and that backfired spectacularly. I'm sure he regrets that decision to this day. He has been texting everybody, Fikile Mbalula, whoever. But the one text that he should not have sent, he sent it to the no-nonsense person, General Mkhwanazi. Because Mkhwanazi looked at that and was like, Yinle. Ubani lo? Who is this Brown? And but we still need to know, where did you get privileged police information? The messages that he was sending to Vusi Matlala were quite significant in that, they were discussing strategies to defeat the ends of justice, to implicate members of the GCI ops. We need that information. Then we also need to get an understanding of the purpose of the money that he was collecting, the extent of the money that he was collecting from various people, and who he was collecting it from. Those are the main things that I think he needs to clarify before we even talk about other things. Some of the other stuff this is mentioned about Figilemba Lula and all of that stuff is scintillating. It's exciting, but it's not necessarily relevant to what we're pursuing here, which is, why did the Political Killings Task Team get shut down? What is the nature of horse curry behavior of the people implicated here? And how far up does this go? But I'm going to be following. I'm going to be trying to keep up with everything to see whether or not Brown delivered on what he promised. Brown envelope Mogotsi, it's time for you now to open the envelope and to sing, Baba. You need to sing like Adele. You need to sing like Ringo Madlingozi. Sondela Brownie, Sondela.